Well, hello. It's time to settle in for a coffee and a quick chat. You ready for your coffee break? Because we're going to get into it around something that might be feeling quite difficult right now. But I'm going to show you ways that what you're feeling might actually be a positive indicator and how we can switch things around so that you can make some of the challenging feelings work in your favor. Today's Coffee with Becky is all about self-doubt. If you don't know what Coffee with Becky is, that means you weren't watching my Instagram in 2020, which is probably quite likely. And if you want to know more about what you're going to get on this channel and how this type of content's going to sit alongside some of the other content that might have brought you here already, then wait till the end of the video and I will catch you up. So what is it we're talking about? We're talking about self-doubt. Who hasn't experienced self-doubt before? Actually, I can think of a few people who probably haven't experienced self-doubt, and actually that might be quite problematic. Because let's be real, the only people that don't experience self-doubt are those who are either in such incredible positions of privilege that they already have everything laid out in front of them, or people who have maybe certain personality disorders. So none of us really want to fit into those buckets, right? So that's the first reason that if you're experiencing self-doubt, you might just want to see that as a slightly positive sign. So it's time for me to do a little personal check-in and explain to you why self-doubt is something that is coming up for me at the moment. Recently, not that recently anymore, a couple of months ago, I stepped away from being a CEO and I stepped into a life of being a mixture of a coach, content creator, trainer, workshop leader, facilitator, speaker, all of those kind of things. Now, in some ways, I have been building a portfolio career since 2010, so that's 15 years. You'd have thought I was quite confident at that kind of thing by now. But the reality is, all I've ever done in the past is essentially just try to keep my head above water. Things are different now. I'm proactively trying to build things in a way that is going to make my life more manageable, help me deal with my autoimmune condition, help me deal with my autistic tendencies and the challenges that I face because of that. So for a large part of my career, I haven't even been diagnosed with autism. That totally changes the way things show up for me. So now I'm in this position where I have goals. I'm setting up this lifestyle I really want to achieve, and I actually believe I can. And the weirdest thing is, that makes the self-doubt kind of even bigger, because I've realized I'm not going to compromise on some of those goals, on some of the ways I need to live my life going forward. I've realized that I need to build in time off, rest time. I need to say no to certain pieces of work if they don't fit into my portfolio in the right way, so I can create space for the things that need to fit. But by doing that, I also have to have real conviction in the things that I want to do and the life that I am building towards. And that can be quite difficult. Specifically, what am I working through at the moment? Working through feelings of self-doubt when it comes to, do I create content? What kind of content do I create? Why does anybody want to sit here and listen to what I've got to say? Do I want to just be sitting and talking? Is that the best way for me to add value to people? And actually, the answer to that already I know is no, because facilitation is really important, coaching is really important. Kind of showing people how I'm living my life is important, and that's going to help other people along the way. But I've also realized that, and I've had a lot of self-doubt around, can I even do this? Do you know how much time it takes to edit videos? And that's not me complaining, but creating content is something that takes time, and especially in the beginning and where I am right now, I'm a little bit rusty. It's been a while, so everything takes longer. So I'm sitting here going, can I actually do this? I've started to get migraines because I'm sitting and editing for a really long time because I am rusty. And so these are the types of feelings of self-doubt that are creeping up. Is it only going to get worse? How is it going to work when I've got maybe other pieces of work on my plate? Other things that have been coming in for me are things that very superficial things. I sit here and I'm like, I'm older now. Do I look okay? Honest to God, I've been Googling chin implants and how do I get rid of age spots? There's all these things about my physical appearance. What haircuts can I get to just make it look like my face isn't drooping so much? How can I get rid of these bags under my eyes? And all of these thoughts that are going through my head that really shouldn't make that much of a difference if what I'm doing is here to help other people. And so hopefully I'm telling you this so that maybe it's things that you can resonate with and things that you can go, oh yeah, these are the types of thoughts or feelings that I might be having too. Of course I have doubts about, can I make the money I need to make to pay my bills? Those ever increasing bills. We're not in the same position as we were even 5 years ago in terms of the minimum amount of money you need to bring in to cover the cost of living. So all of those kind of things are coming into doubt for me. And then layered on top of that is, well, maybe other people can make this work, but perhaps I can't make it work. I've just come out of an 8-week flare-up. I've got autism. How am I going to stop myself from burning out again? How do I live carefully enough and mindfully enough to stay steady? And can I do that? Is it really going to be possible? So this is why self-doubt is on the menu today. And as I've been thinking all these things, I've been thinking, is self-doubt a sign that I actually can't do the things that I want to do? I can't work towards my goals? Or is self-doubt actually a sign that I'm going in the right direction? And I think it's the latter. I think we're taught to get rid of the idea of self-doubt. There is so much out there that's like, you've got this, you can do this, you can overcome this. Wipe away those feelings or those thoughts that maybe you don't have all the tools you need right now to move forward. And so maybe when we experience self-doubt, we sit here and go, there's actually something wrong with me. I'm meant to be confident. Successful people are confident all the time. They have full belief in themselves all of the time. And that's not true. Equally, self-doubt is not a sign just to stop. It's not just, oh, I don't think I can do this, so I'm not going to try. So the way I see it is that it's a signal. It's a sign of humility, and it's a sign that actually you're being realistic and you're being human. But it's not a sign that you don't have the tools or you can't get the tools to get to where you want to go. It's actually a way to check in and say, well, what do I have and what don't I have? So let's dig a bit deeper. Where does self-doubt come from? For me, a lot of my self-doubt comes from the past. It comes from past experiences. It comes from times that I have failed. It comes from looking at all those burnouts that I've had and all those times I've led in a flare-up and gone, actually, I couldn't make these things work. I pushed as hard as I could and things didn't happen. And I actually ended up hurting myself, harming myself. So when I get my self-doubts, a lot of it comes from that. A lot of it is saying, like, the past is proof to me that I can't in the future. Apart from the fact I'm going to change things in the future. Things are not going to be the same. I'm not going to push. And that's scary too, to be like, well, if you do it in a way that is more mindful, that's softer, that's more focused, the way you have less things on the go, can you really make that happen? It's kind of exciting to try, actually. And for me, this is in different parts of my life. It's in terms of career and career progress. It's definitely health. Health is the main thing for me these days. And that is where that push has really not worked for me. Just gonna close the window. Okay. It's shown up in my gymnastics, and I have struggled to overcome injuries, and gymnastics has gone backwards. That can feel very frustrating. And you do think, oh, maybe this is what it is to get older. Maybe this is just what it is to live in the world that we're in right now. And perhaps I'm not going to be able to achieve certain things. And probably I can't. I can't achieve everything that's out there on my list, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be trying. When I looked into some of the research around self-doubt, the big thing that I found was that whether or not self-doubt holds you back is to do with your mindset. Do you have a growth mindset or do you have a fixed mindset? And if you've got a growth mindset, self-doubt really is about those signals that is telling you that there might be some challenges going forward, but you can plot a pathway to overcome those challenges. If you've got a fixed mindset, you're essentially saying to yourself, well, I feel stuck right now. I feel like I have doubts right now and things are not going to change and I don't have the ability to make them change. And I love to think that I have a growth mindset and I'm very open to opportunities, but the reality is that especially if my energy levels are low, I don't really. I say, well, how can I? I've got no energy right now even to get on with the day-to-day. How am I going to move? How am I going to find that extra energy to do things in a different way, to get new tools, to learn new skills, to meet new people, to build new opportunities? And that's why it's all about doing approaches that work for you. And for me, that includes realizing it's not about magic. It's not about suddenly being like, bring, here's more energy. But it's about building in the direction you want to go. So prioritization is something that's really important to me. And like I said, I find that scary and it's not necessarily that natural to me to just have one thing to focus on. But it also feels like a relief and it feels like there's a weight off. So prioritization is really important. Small steps every day, not trying to do massive things, just trying to stay where you are right now and figuring out what you can do right now to move towards new things. And keeping that small so it doesn't feel too overwhelming, especially if your energy levels are low. Or maybe if you're experiencing a lot of self-doubt, it means that your mental health isn't where you would like it to be at the moment. And so you need to work through that in order to be able to move forward. So keeping it small, not overwhelming yourself. Building routines and building habits, that's really important. And as you do that, you realize some of those small steps get easier and you start to build confidence. And when you've got a bit more of that confidence, then you're not doubting your ability so much. And let's remember, all of these things are contextual. So you might be confident in one area of your life, but when you're pivoting and changing, and that's kind of the situation that I'm in right now, that you might find that that's when the doubts creep in. And you don't necessarily trust yourself so much to achieve the goals that you've got set out in front of you. And you need to do a lot of repetition. And I think this is where I fail sometimes because I'm like, God, you just got to keep doing the same things over and over and over again. And that's actually how you build up confidence. This is where you build trust in yourself again. Just keep showing up and doing the same thing and realizing that starts to build one step at a time. It's like brick by brick by brick. But sometimes I'm not very good at that. And I feel like, well, I should be now, I've got that basic steps in place, let's build. And before I know it, I've overwhelmed myself again. The truth is, you just got to keep showing up in that steady way. And that can help you to move forward. And that can start to help to move through that self-doubt and get that confidence. So as I was saying before, part of what I'm thinking about here is also, is self-doubt a good thing? Is it something that can be helpful, or is it something that's just a hindrance? And it really does depend how you deal with it and how you allow it to inform you of where you go next. Because self-doubt can have both the pros and the cons. 1 second. They would call this maladaptive or adaptive ways of working with self-doubt. The way I think about it is it your friend or is it your foe? And I think that there's kind of some flip sides of it. If you're experiencing self-doubt, it could go 2 ways. 1, it could be that you go into victim mode and you're just like, I just can't do this. I'm the type of person who can't do this. And this is if you allow it to just become part of your identity. So I have these doubts and it's saying, I'm not good enough. I can't do these things. And that's victim mode. On the flip side of that, if you're using this or if you're able to have certain doubts about yourself, that's a positive thing, that's reality. And then if you can work with them and, like I said, overcome them, see what barriers you need to overcome, what that means is you have humility. You're not arrogant and think that you can just do it all. So again, that makes you a human person. That's a positive thing, that's a good thing. However, again, we've got more pros and cons. If you allow those doubts to block your expansion, clearly that's not a positive thing. If you allow them to make you realize this is where am I right now and this is my reality, what steps do I need to take, then you're no longer allowing them to block your expansion. You're just allowing it to be like, this is the baseline, this is the starting point for reality. Then you move forwards. If you have self-doubt, it may mean that you don't step out of your comfort zone, you don't take any risks, and you just allow it to hold you back. Equally, having self-doubt in certain situations might be a good thing, because it might be that you're doubting taking massive risks, and those risks could be potentially damaging. So actually, having doubts in certain situations is not a bad thing at all. It's only if you're allowing it to stop you from moving forwards and taking those small steps, taking those realistic steps, taking those steps towards your dreams, towards your expansion, taking small steps out of your comfort zone. But of course, I have some gymnastics friends. I have one person in particular in mind, and she's like, I do not have that switch that tells me when it's not safe to do certain things, so I just try anything. On the other hand, I'm the complete opposite to that, and I'm like, oh, I get kind of scared and I don't try anything unless I feel like I can already do it. And that's where we want to have a bit more expansion, have those doubts, but then grow from those doubts. And the trouble is, if you don't take action, if you just stand still, if there is inaction, you often are gonna look back with regret about the things that you haven't done. And I know that's definitely something that I've experienced, where I've allowed that self-doubt to hold me back. Not even begin to dream about doing things. Just continue to tell myself that I don't know how to reach goals, I don't know how to reach dreams. And the kind of where it can be positive is that, like I said, if you recognize those doubts, what that can do is it can identify areas for learning and development. So instead of being like, oh, there's a blocker, I'm just not going to walk forwards at all, or there's something that seems fearful or scary and I don't think I can do it, I'm not going to walk forwards. If you break it down into those small steps and start taking small steps, then that is your way of learning and developing, and suddenly you're going to get to a point where you're like, oh, that thing was easy. What was I complaining about? I actually did manage to do that. And guess what? I feel really great about the fact that I did. Because guess what? I would actually rather fall flat on my face than never try things at all. And that's why we need to be able to work through that self-doubt, taking the steps that I've already talked about. So it's not about removing the self-doubt, it's about listening, learning, and then leading the way into your future life. I really do think that a lot of these things that we're told are myths, are just very social media BS that are designed to make people feel good in the moment but don't actually translate to helping them in their everyday life. The reality is that the adage of you can do anything you put your mind to is kind of an ableism myth, and maybe there are certain people who can do anything that they put their mind to. But if you've had several times of putting your mind very strongly to certain things and they haven't come to fruition, then that's not very helpful. What's more helpful is to say, let's examine where you think there might be some barriers here, and let's work to overcome those barriers. Let's adapt the goals. I'd love to be an Olympic gymnast. I know that even if I put my mind to that, unfortunately, and if I put every ounce of my money and every single penny towards it and brought in all the best people to biohack me this way and the other, I'm not likely to ever be an Olympic gymnast. And so I think, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to do fulfilling things, and it doesn't mean I can't love the sport. So I want to myth bust that idea of you can do anything you can do anything you put your mind to, because actually you may have to adapt. And what that does is leave many of us just feeling incredibly frustrated because we end up burning out and we end up sick. And which brings me to my next myth bust. Guess what? Knowing your limits does not make you weak. It makes you strategic. And it's not about saying you're never going to overcome those limits either. It's just being realistic about where you are right now, which is going to allow you to be grounded enough to dream bigger, to achieve bigger things. And I guess a lot of what I'm saying here is about toxic positivity. Realistic self-leadership is more important than toxic positivity. You don't always have to be feeling 100% positive about yourself. Those self-doubts are okay. And having self-doubts does not make you less than. You just have to make sure they don't completely stand in your way. So let me know, is your self-doubt trying to keep you safe? Or is it trying to keep you small? And how are you going to overcome those things? I'm sure you've experienced a lot of the things that I've talked about today, so let me know in the comments, and I will see you again soon. So for those of you who stuck around to the end, I said I was going to talk a little bit more about this channel, where it's going, where this kind of content is going to be going. The reality is, if I do crazy edits, if I do the types of videos which I want to be spending some time on all of the time, then we're not going to build a very great community here. You're not going to have much time to get to know me because those kind of videos take a long time. And when I say those kind of videos, I've got lots of things in mind, lots of cool ideas about exploring how we can be more powerful in our life, in our work, how we can use the tools out there. Lots of experiments that I'm going to do so you don't have to. And I'm really excited to do those things. At the same time, I think sometimes just sitting here and having a nice cozy little chat and doing a video that maybe takes a day instead of 3 is realistic at the moment. Coming back to talking about my own self-doubts, that was one thing that was starting to stand in my way, was like, oh, I pictured these, I've really started to build my skills and have fun with editing and creating cool things and doing loads of extra shooting and b-roll and extra angles and everything else, but it just isn't going to be possible all of the time to make videos like that. And honestly, I'd rather show up and engage with you than not show up at all. And so, because I'm trying to do too much, and it's such a tendency of mine to try to do too much that I'm trying to rein myself in from that. That's a lesson I've learned far too many times. And this time around, I'm trying not to have to learn that lesson again. So let me know the type of content you'd like to see from me. And don't forget, you can see different things over on Instagram as well. So head over there, links are in the comments. And I'll see you again soon. Bye.